my home for the next 9 hours. Shit. Right, we've got that boy's got to be replaced and that one over there, so they've got to come out, and I've got to put a new doofer, I don't know, probably there it's going to be, I'd have thought, so that's the plan. Yes, another cupboard, another staircase. All right, let me whip that bad boy off and see what's behind it. Thomas Nagy, the man who lived in a cupboard. Right, what I'm going to do is use brilliantly my Bosch toolboxes. That's going to be too big. I'm going to have to lose a box. That gives me something to perch on at least. Right, the work light has to go over there. Most important part of the job, which everyone fails to think about, is sustenance. Nothing worse than getting to 12 o'clock and you get a bit peckish. Yeah, nothing worse than that. So I've got some breakfast juice and some seedless grapes. All right, screwdrivers, check. Snips, check. Best thing you'll ever get for your iPhone, a magnetic phone case. Well worth it. Go and get one. Fuck. Oh, fuck me. Okay. Hey, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, these Bosch boxes are not made for sitting on. However, I thought of that and I have a piece of wood. Have you got a good viewing position? Sat at home with your crisps and your beer and your peanuts. Right, I'm going to try and get you into a slightly more manageable position, because that's not very practical for you guys. Practical for me, but not for you. That's as good as I can get. Alright, you're just going to have to look at all my spots on my forehead, and there's nothing I can really do about it, I'm afraid. I don't even know what you can... fucking whatever. Get what you're given. Yeah, this thing of working on live fuse boards is still rumbling on. I don't think it'll ever... Yeah, this thing it's still rumbling on. Oh, you shouldn't be working on live fuse boards. All the power should be isolated. Yeah, all right. If you say so. Yeah, the problem that I've got with it is that you are an electrician, and turning around telling people that they have to isolate the power every single time they do something is just, it's nonsense. You know, is this unacceptable now? Because technically those tails are still live. So is this unacceptable what I'm doing now? Sorry, this is what is part of an electrician's day. This is it. And telling people, no, the power has to be fully isolated right from the source before you take the cut. I mean, it's nonsense. Go away. Right, that's the alarm system. What? Are you having a giraffe? We are starting this week. There's a guy who's... Really? You're having a giraffe, mate. There's a fella who's got it's like a nightclub over in London Wall. And I've been pestering him for the plans to be able to price it. And he hasn't got back to me for weeks and weeks and weeks. And he's like, oh, we're starting this week. I haven't even given him a quote yet.
We are starting this week. We can pay for the materials directly, but you'll need to give us a list. For loading or for a few hours, we have access, but otherwise no. Maximum 6 weeks. How long are you expecting the project to take to fully complete? Maximum 6 weeks, but that's because we need to move the staircase.
Right. Okay. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
12 seconds later.
Oh, what? It's all right. I got a job on Friday to do with some nice ladies. 14 invoices overdue. Yes, tell me something that I don't already know. And those will be 14 people I will no longer be working for, because I'm getting bored of chasing money. Oh, I forgot. I'll make sure I pay it tonight. Yeah, well, you fuck. All right, I'm going to go and get my Mega. Back in a mo. Oh, fuck, I'm getting too old for this. Apprentices in colleges, listen carefully. The novelty of this does wear off rather quickly. Not that I've ever actually had a novelty, to be fair. You bugger off up there now. Okay. In my little cave. Right, let's give a bit of continuity. All right, I'm not going to be testing much like that. It's better. Okay, leads calibrated. Right. Let's test this ring. Do we actually have a ring? There are some people that say you should do a fully ICR before you change a fuse board, but again, I do agree with it, and there is substance to that argument. I accept that completely. Fucking twisted leads, who does that? I want to track down that electrician and fucking stab him in the face with my screwdriver. Why would you do that? There you are. I'll pop it there so you can see it. Have we got a ring? 0.67. Yes, we have. You normally get a gut feeling whether the house is going to have a ring intact or not. Normally houses like this generally, I mean it's not an exact science, but if the house is old and it just hasn't been fucked around with, generally you don't tend to get any issues. It's normally houses where, you know, DIY Dave's fucked around and then you start getting borrowed neutrals and you get, you know, you start getting into broken rings and all that sort of stuff. But houses like this where it's just like an old person and it's died or something and it hasn't really been maintained, you generally don't get issues. I mean, I shouldn't, it's not tempt fate here. So in an ideal world, yes, you would do an EICR before a board change, but I mean, what I'll do here is I just explain to the customer beforehand. I say, look, I can happily upgrade the board. I mean, what I did on this one, I took the cover off, checked that all the lighting circuits have an earth of some description. So at least I know, okay, the lighting circuits are earthed. And I just have a look around. I'll have a look around the house, just get a gauge of what, you know, it sounds silly, but it's looking for things like, have the accessories been updated since the board was fitted? Because that board's what, 70s? So have all the socket fronts been upgraded? Have we got, you know, shiny chrome ones in now? That would indicate that someone's been in here fucking around with it, you know, doing stuff. Which case I'd be more wary. But if they're the original, like the old MK accessories and stuff, chances are they're still serviceable, you know, which would mean if it hasn't been fucked around with, chances are it's probably okay. It's just, I mean, that's, you know, that's not a blanket statement, but again, not everybody agrees with the way that I look at it, but half the time it's true. You walk into a house and you get a gut feeling, and that gut feeling, honestly, 9.5 times out of 10, that gut feeling is correct and it will pull you through. But I mean, there's no reg which says that, but it's true. You walk into a house and you get a vibe. You can tell whether someone's fucked around with the lights. You can tell whether, you know, I mean, they wanted other work doing here as well. And I just make it clear, look, if there are any issues, then, you know, normally I can get to the bottom of them within, you know, an hour or so. And if you're already here doing other work, it's generally not so much of an issue. If you're just coming here just to do a board change, then, you know, you've got to make it clear, look, I'll allow 2 hours of fault finding within my fee. After that, you've got to pay if there are faults. And more often than not, people are okay with it, you know, as long as you're just honest up front before you start. That's the bit that matters. Okay. All over me grapes. Fuck. All right, I've got seedless red grapes with dust. Nom nom nom. Okay, let's get all of these out. Okay. Old board out. Mother dick. Well, it can only really go there. Permanent marker, mark the holes, put it to the wall. Done. That's where it's going. It's its new home for the next 30 years. I think I'll have some breakfast juice. Stimulate the old grey matter. When you buy orange juices and stuff, right? Look at the label, right? Because, very cunning, I didn't realise this. If it says juice, okay, that means it's pure or from concentrate, but it is just juice, right? If it says juice drink, that means it's basically bulked out with other crap, okay? So this one has just got, not that this is electrical work, but it's interesting, I didn't know this. It's just got fruit in it, that's all. There's no added sugar to it. But if you see juice drink, that means it's got added sugar. A little tip, I didn't know that. So if you see juice drink, basically just put it back and get one which says juice only, because it's just fruit juice. Sorry, there was a bit of radio silence there while I had to get this board mounted and get this trunking in. Let's get the tails in first. Twitter. The place of subtle abuse and false hierarchy. Get loads of that on Twitter. People hating on you, but they're doing it in a really subtle but very polite way. But they're basically calling you a... I'd rather you just call me a c***, to be honest. Get that in there. Oh, it's definitely one of the smaller fuse boards I've done. There you are, let's have a grape for sustenance. Grapes with brick dust. These mass-produced grapes don't taste of anything. Okay, let's get that earth in first. I'm going to cut it about there. To the other side, to the other side. I don't care if it's sad. I like it. Right, a few hours later, very cramped in here, and I had to put the camera down a bit because I just wanted to try and get a bit of a wiggle on. But it's almost there, of sorts. Tails have gone, they've gone into there. Main earth, that's gone in down to there where my grapes are. Oh, you should wash those before you eat them. Yeah, you should also look before you pull out of a junction, but how many people do that? Well, I have had to do, I'm 2 20-amp breakers. I could have sworn I had them here. I haven't. I've got a pair of 20s got to go in, so I've had to makeshift a 32 just for tonight. I come back tomorrow and I can put a 20 in. But that was the ring you saw me testing earlier. Those are the cables there. But yeah, it's just a dual RCD setup, this one. We've got to put the cooker in. What time are we on? 1 o'clock. All right, 2 minutes. Let me put these buzz bars in and I can get some power on. Oh, fuck, I'll be glad to get out of this cupboard. Okay, let's do some insulation testing. Do you think I might be able to pop this? I don't know if you can see that. It'd be nice for you guys to get in on the action. If you want to call this action. I'll hold it. I'll just hold it. So, if I put my probe on neutral, let's do live to neutral. Let's turn on the breakers we want to test. I normally start at 250. Could we get to 200? Easy done. Fab, over 200. Perfection. Yeah, it's uncommon you can test live to neutral because this house is empty. It doesn't matter. I've just unplugged. You can unplug everything, and it's there's absolutely there's no load on the circuit at all. Generally, if it's passed live to neutral, it will pass live to earth. Not all the time, but as a good rule of thumb, if it's passed live to neutral, it will pass live to earth and neutral to earth. Same again, plus 200, 220, 230. Yeah. Normally I test on 250 first just to see what the readings are like, and then if it passes that, then I bang it up to 500 and I'll do the same test again. I don't know, I just don't like testing straight at 500. I like to start at 250, just see what feedback the meter gives you. So yeah, plus 200. Let's retest that again. Live to neutral, or line to neutral I should say. Fab, okay. So that's over 200 mega ohms. Yeah, when you're doing EICRs and stuff, it's very rare you can do a full all the full range of tests, especially if it's like a tenanted, occupied property. It can't be done. When a customer's living in the house and stuff, and you've got to start doing insulation testing, and they've got USB sockets and stuff, and they've got neon, they've got the sockets with the neons built in and stuff. It just isn't plausible. Most of the time, when you see other Sparks doing it, they just put limitation. They'll just put lim under live to neutral because it's not, at best, maybe you could scrape past on live to earth or something, but even then, it's not, when everything is plugged in and you've got loads, you've got neons, you've got all this stuff trying to do a live to earth test and stuff. Realistically, it just don't happen. Doing wrong. If you have the time to go around and unplug, absolutely everything, and have a nice blanket, a bit like this, you've got a bare. You're starting from, just the bare bones. It's plausible, but I mean, when you're in a 5-bedroom townhouse, how often does that happen? What the book says and what happens in real life aren't quite the same. You go into Big Mama's house and you've got 6 kids dangling around her ankles. You've got a parking warden outside giving you a ticket on your van. You've got, kids screaming, dogs barking. It's not just the testing. I know people will argue and they'll say, well, those things are all variables which you should be, taking into consideration. Well, it's not quite as simple as that in the real world, but I mean, in an ideal world, that's the results you'd get. There's literally no room, but this is as good as I can show you. So the twin, actually, I've stripped it and it ends just in here, just so that you don't have this thing where you've got loads of twin still showing in here, and it just makes it a little bit neater, I think. I've got those breakers there. I've got to swap that out for a 20, I think. Same again with that one, because I didn't have them yesterday on the van. Put the guards on underneath, and I've got a few more, some other odds and ends to do, but we'll go along with that. We'll do that now. Where was I? Yes, I'm going to swap those breakers out. And I put two, those aren't the pair of lighting circuits, one's the security alarm, which again, didn't have it on me yesterday. Right, and the security alarm is going over this side, the burglar alarm. If it was an RCBO board, it wouldn't be an issue, you just put it on an RCBO, but I find with dual RCD boards, I still like to keep the alarm system off the RCDs, just because if, obviously the inherent fault with dual RCD boards is that if the RCD trips, it takes out all of those circuits, and vice versa on this side. But if the security alarm is here, if there's a fault on the sockets here, for instance, and it takes out the RCD, it'll also take out the alarm system. So that's the only reason. Yes, it isn't on RCD, but I mean the length of, it's going from there to that spur, so it's, I'm sorry, it's hardly an issue, you know. And I'd rather have the peace of mind that you know, if the RCDs do trip while they're away on holiday or something, at least the house is still secure, you know. So that's the only reason. Unfortunately, people take what you say and it goes on social media, and they just, you know, massage it a little bit, and then by the time it's done the rounds on social media, it comes back to you as, you know, Thomas Nagy thinks safe isolation's a load of bollocks and it's not worth doing it, yada yada. And it's not like that. It's just use a little bit of common sense when you're working, is all I'm saying. I had this discussion with Paul Meenan, you know, on the conversation couch, exactly this topic, just about, you know, it's not that safe isolation's a load of bollocks, because it's not. It's very important, but there are, you know, there is a time and a place. And the issue I have is that all humanity is taken out of, you know, everything we do now. You're not allowed to use common sense, your gut feeling, your intuition, you know. You're not allowed to use all of those inherent things which are built into us. You know, we're not allowed to do all that. We have to, and I don't know, for me that just doesn't sit with me. Fucking yow. Talking of that, my Ducati's died on me. Battery's died on it, so I've ordered a new one and I've got to fit it. Well, I'm going to try and fit it this weekend if I can. Depends what the weather's doing. Unfortunately, Schneider's surge protector hasn't turned up for some reason. I was kind of hoping it would, so I had to pick up this generic one from the wholesaler this morning, but I didn't actually have to fit one here. The only reason I chose to fit one was just because they've got a driveway, and it's possible that they might have an electric car at some point, so I think it's good practice if you've got, you know, if you know there's going to be something like that coming up in the future, possibly. I think it's good practice to fit them in. But they're simple enough. It's just, as you see there, and it's just a pigtail onto the earth bar, and that's it, basically. So as soon as the Schneider one turns up, I can swap it out. There's a nice job actually coming up over in the city, over on London Wall. It's like a bar sort of nightclub. I mean, it's a blank canvas. It's just 4 walls in there at the moment. So, you know, you've got to put the new panel up, your new 3-phase panel, all the tray, everything. There's no false ceiling. Everything's set. It's all on display. And it looks beautiful when it's done. You've got all the tray hanging down, all the metal, you know, your galv all coming down to your metal back box. You know, all of it looks, it's all on display. It's one of the, you know, that's the sort of in thing now, that you can see everything. So it looks nice, but you know, when it's all on display, it's not like it's above a false ceiling where, you know, I mean, you can get away with stuff that you can't there. You know, that's got to be pucker. Yeah, it's got to look pucker, and that takes time to get that nice finish. You know, when someone's sitting below it eating a steak and he looks up, it's got to look, you know, that's got to look really nice. It's got to be me and 2 others there. It's got to be. You're never going to get it done otherwise. So 3 men, got to be 30k minimum. It's got to be 30 grand plus parts and materials, you know, parking and all the rest of it. It's got to be. I don't know. You got to keep it competitive enough that you win the job, but not so competitive that you just lose money on it. You know, because also it's very easy for jobs like that. It's very easy to lose money on them as well. If you underestimate it, you can just end up getting into just a whirlwind of, you know, and suddenly just the cost just spirals out of control, and before you know it, you know, you're 10 grand down. You know, it's easy done. Leave your thoughts below. I'd like to know what you guys think. How do you price bigger stuff? Leave it below. I'd like to know, please. Well, that's her. She's in. The only thing I've got to do is put the Schneider surge protector in when that arrives in, and the wholesaler. But for the second, I'm just going to have to use that generic one for a minute. But otherwise, she's about there. Ah, and that was the little box. I didn't bother. I actually had stuffing glands, but I didn't bother using it on these little boxes because I find these little ones aren't. They don't. I mean, they do accept stuffing glands, but they're just not as nice. And in the end, that's all I did. Just drill a little 10mm hole in the bottom for the cables to come in. Those ones there are the bathroom, and those there are the bedrooms. 2 bedrooms upstairs, and the bathroom and the toilet, which is just through there. So I've just run 2 circuits in: bedrooms, toilet, or toilet bedroom, whichever way around it is. Yeah, they say these boxes are rated for outdoor use, but I don't think they. I mean, they are, but. For me, that's more of an indoor junction box, if that makes any sense. The amount of times I've done call outs and stuff and you see these boxes and they've just got water ingress. I've still been using those. I keep trying other brands of drill bits and stuff. You know, the spade bits, we keep talking about them. I still keep going back to these. That pack you get from ITS. They're just really good, and they're cheap enough that it's not, you know, it's not breaking the bank. You know, if you break one, it's not the end of the world. But I keep going back to these. I keep trying the different ones. I tried the Armeg ones the other day and they're lovely, but I just keep going back to these ones. They are well worth it. Okay, that's one of the things I do like about that laptop. You can just beat the shit out of it and it just keeps going. I wanted to get like a MacBook Air or something, but I mean, for what I do here, it would never work. You just destroy them permanently. But that is a stonkingly good bit of kit. There was only one flaw with this laptop. It took me months before I worked out what it was, and I don't know whether it was just this laptop or all Panasonic Toughbooks. I don't know. But if I'm typing, right, I'll demonstrate it now. If I was typing, the screen would switch off like this. I'd be typing away and it would just suddenly switch off. And it would just keep doing it. I'd be typing, and I thought it was something to do with the keyboard. You're typing on the keyboard, and it's just the screen's doing this, where it's just going black. It actually wasn't. One day, this was actually over Christmas when I found out. I rested my hand on it, and it went off, and I was like, what the fuck? And I worked out that it's actually my watch. I don't know why it does it, but if you put a metallic object in this area here, where your wrist would sit, if I take my watch off, it doesn't do it. For some reason, you put your watch somewhere here, it turns the display off, and I have no idea why. I've got no idea why it does it. But if you know why, leave it below, because I don't understand why it does it. I mean, I actually got this purely just to do electrical certificates and just work from the van on, just because there's a lot of stuff, you know, on your phone which you just can't do. So that was one of the reasons why I got that Toughbook. But I wouldn't be without it now. It's definitely a worthwhile, you know, it's if you're doing testing every day and stuff, I definitely have a laptop over a tradition, you know, over an iPad or a tablet or something. It's just more functional, if that makes any sense.